Let's set the scene. It's the 4th century BCE, and Alexander the Great's Macedonian army has just arrived at the Safa overlook. They are absolutely furious, weapons drawn, fully expecting to sack the city and slaughter its leaders. But as the dust settles, they don't see an opposing army. Instead, a solemn procession is marching directly toward them. The citizens are dressed entirely in pure white, the priests in fine linen, and leading them is the high priest Jadis, wearing striking purple and scarlet robes. Then, the most powerful man on earth does the unthinkable. Alexander gets off his horse, walks forward completely alone, and kneels in the dirt. He bypasses the high priest entirely and bows to venerate the golden plate engraved with the name of God on the priest's headpiece. His generals and allies are left standing there, jaws on the floor. They've watched him dictate the terms of every encounter with the tip of a spear for years, yet here he is, submitting to a foreign priest in a way that defies every rule of Macedonian military logic. To understand why this is so baffling, we have to look at this map of the Persian Empire and go back a few months. Following brutal, successful sieges at Tyre and Gaza, Alexander's momentum along the eastern Mediterranean coast is completely unchecked. He looks south toward Jerusalem, which sits directly in the path of his march. He sends them a straightforward demand: send military auxiliaries, supply my army, and transfer your absolute loyalty. But the high priest, Jadis, flatly refuses. He operates under a completely different authority. He swore a sacred oath to the living Persian king Darius, and he refuses to break it, choosing divine law over the law of the sword. Alexander is absolutely furious. He views the high priest's refusal as a profound personal insult, vowing to march on Jerusalem to make a very violent point about who you are actually supposed to keep your oaths to. So he pivots his entire undefeated military machine toward Jerusalem. The unyielding, sacrificial faith of a single city is now on a direct collision course with the most dangerous man alive. With Alexander's army officially on the way, sheer terror spreads through the streets of Jerusalem. The threat of annihilation is absolute. Jadis responds to this mortal crisis by completely ignoring military defense. Instead of reinforcing the walls, he gathers the people, leads them in prayer, and offers sacrifices to God. In that moment of total desperation, after the sacrifices are made, Jadis falls asleep and receives an answer in a dream. The instructions he gets are highly dangerous. He is told to strip away any standard siege preparations. Do not arm the citizens. Instead, decorate the city, throw the gates wide open, dress everyone in white, and march straight out to meet the enraged conqueror. When he wakes up, Jadis doesn't hesitate. He calms his panicked people, dresses in his holy vestments, and initiates this highly vulnerable procession right out of the city gates. Jadis throws open the city gates, leading a procession of white garments directly into the path of an enraged army. A breathtaking act of faith in the divine answer he received. That brings us back to the overlook, where Alexander has just bowed in the dirt. The stunned silence is finally broken by Parmenion, Alexander's most trusted general, who pulls his king aside and asks the question on everyone's mind: why on earth did you just bow to a foreign priest? Alexander corrects him. He explains that he didn't bow to Jadis the man, but to the specific God who honored him with that high priesthood. To explain why, Alexander points back to his time at Dion in Macedonia, long before this sprawling Asian campaign had even begun. While he was debating how to conquer Asia, Alexander had a dream. In it, a misty figure appeared to him, a man identical to Jadis, wearing these exact same ornate vestments. The figure in the dream exhorted Alexander to cross the sea without delay. He gave him an absolute guarantee that a divine power would guide his army and hand him victory over the Persian Empire. So, seeing Jadis standing there in the flesh is the living, breathing confirmation of that promise. Instantly, Alexander's entire attitude shifts. He goes from being a wrathful conqueror ready to burn a city to a reverent guest. Alexander offers Jadis his right hand, and the two men walk peacefully into Jerusalem, side by side, surrounded by the priests. Once inside the temple, Alexander goes a step further. He willingly offers sacrifices to God, doing so strictly according to the high priest's directions. Then the priests show him an ancient scroll from the Book of Daniel. The Book of Daniel is a Hebrew prophetic text that contains highly specific visions of future kingdoms and empires. They point to a specific prophecy within the scroll. It declares that a Greek conqueror is destined to arrive and permanently shatter the Persian Empire. For Alexander, reading this text is the ultimate validation. It definitively proves he is the singular man of destiny spoken of in ancient antiquity. This deeply personal belief translates directly into geopolitical action. The very next day, Alexander gathers the people and asks what favors he can grant them. He immediately grants them extraordinary privileges: total religious freedom, the right to live by their ancestral laws, and full tax exemption during their sabbatical year. The sabbatical year is a Jewish law requiring agricultural land to rest entirely every 7th year, meaning they have no crops to pay standard tribute. And his protection doesn't stop at the walls of Jerusalem. He promises these exact same rights to Jews living far away in Babylon and Media, and allows Jewish soldiers in his army to maintain their customs. The historian Josephus leaves us with a fascinating account, but also a lingering question about history itself. Looking at a conqueror bowing in the dirt, we have to ask, where do the physical ambitions of men end, and where does the invisible architecture of divine will begin?